Hello everyone, my name is Hart, and I am currently standing outside the entrance to the best psychology school in the world. Yes, I'm wearing my newly purchased $11,000 suit, and I'm also the son of a lawnmower. How, you ask me, I ended up here? Well, it's pretty simple. I'm smart. Are you laughing? To get the full story, relax and watch. I'll add that in return, you'll get a batch of brownies to think about, and I'll charge you for the likes and subscriptions, okay? Then let's go. 4 years ago, my father and I were on the verge of survival. Mum went away to build a happy life, naively believing that the burden and the reasons for the bad mood were my father and me. But she forgot one detail, herself. But it's not about her, it's about me and Dad. The thing is, Mum took all of our money with her, leaving a bunch of unpaid bills, debts, and credit. Dad almost lost his mind, and I was in high school, and I didn't really understand the magnitude of the problem. Only when my father told me that he had been fired from his job and that we were left without a livelihood did I realize that this was the end. But I didn't know yet that we only determine the end and the beginning. A couple of days later, I put an ad in the paper for a lawnmower near our house. Because of an injury at his last job, my father couldn't function properly with his left hand, so this job was suitable. It didn't pay much, but it was better than nothing. Dad took the job, and in the meantime, I was looking for a part-time job myself, and I found it. I got a job as a janitor in the house of a rich psychologist. His name was Mr. Sandman, and he used to collect people for psychology lectures at his house. My job was to clean the room before and after class, fetch water, wash the blackboard, and videotape the lessons. The interesting thing was that people paid money to get in and listen to the information, and I did it for free, and I still got paid for doing my job. I worked as a whiteboard wiping machine for several years. During that time, I studied all the material on psychology, and I had already begun to think differently myself. At one of the lectures, a student complained about his bad relationship with his mother. According to him, she said that he didn't know how to appreciate a good attitude towards himself. And what was your answer to her? That I appreciate just in my own way. Class, where did you make a mistake? At first, everyone was silent, and then someone timidly replied that maybe he just doesn't like his mother. I was raising from the blackboard at the time, and I just blurted out, "Mistake in my attitude." The professor turned around, and the class laughed. The guy who was complaining rudely said, "And that's what the janitor says to me." Continue. What? Continue the thought. Well, a man who loves himself can't be happy about being treated well by his surroundings. He ain't a dog. Harry, you're complaining about your relationship with your mother, mocking the man who makes our classes comfortable, to whom, by the way, I pay money for it. The question, do you know self-confidence? There was silence in the audience. Harry really was an insecure guy, asserting himself at the expense of people he considered inferior, more often in financial status. It's easy after all, especially when you haven't made a dime for yourself yet, living off your parents. Harry sat down at the table and the professor asked, "Did your mother drag you here to my lectures?" "How do you know?" "You're free, Harry. You won't find anything for yourself here. They come to me voluntarily." Harry got up from his desk and left, glancing sideways in my direction. After the class was over, the lecturer called me over to him. For the first time in so many years, he asked about my life. I told him everything as it was, and then he offered me his mentorship. Do your job, get paid, and listen to lectures for free. When the time comes, I'll nominate you as my protege for the psychology school. This offer was unexpected but pleasant. I began to come with even more enthusiasm to learn. At times during lectures, he would ask me controversial questions using examples of students' life situations. A girl complains about unreasonable expectations with her boyfriend, says she tolerates abuse, asks for help. The question, should she find another guy? She will find another man, but she will also put up with being beaten and humiliated and come complaining about money because she wants to hear how good she is and he is bad. But she'll come back to him after the lecture, hug him, and she won't leave. Why not? The girl is in the position of a victim, The abusive relationship is her machoism, without which she can't imagine her life. Why? She wasn't loved enough as a child, or she's been indoctrinated to think that you've got to earn it by sacrificing yourself. Right. The girl cried and nodded, and the professor broke her problem down into molecules, and out of each one came a new problem. A month later, Professor Sandman nominated me as a candidate as promised. I came to the committee and saw a familiar face in the hallway. It was Harry. His mother turned out to be a psychologist. She was on my committee. The professor noticed it and put a duck on my shoulder. I realized he was reassuring me. While Mr. Sandman was chatting with Harry's mum, Harry himself came up to me and asked with a smirk, "So, from janitor to psychologist. That sounds nice. Just remember, you don't belong here. You were nothing, you still are." I told him in a calm tone, "And you were insecure, and you're still insecure." "What did you say?" I told it like it is. It's up to you to accept the information or not. But judging by your face, red with anger, you don't know how to draw personal boundaries either. "What? Come here!" Then his mother called out to him. They both walked over to me and the professor. Harry took his mother for a word. After their conversation, she came up to us and asked, "Professor, is it because of him that my son no longer attends your lectures? You disregarded your position and the status of this janitor. And by the way, we are colleagues with you. And I also paid money for that lesson," she said indignantly. "I returned your money, but where is it? Ask your son. You go to my lectures of your own free will, not because your mother told you to." "How dare you? You're out of line." "You tell me how to lecture and with whom to lecture, and I have the right to choose my audience. It's in the contract. If you don't like it, that's your problem." "Don't wait for me to approve your candidate for school." I got it. The moment had come. I was supposed to have a written test, then an answer question and an interview. I passed the first 2 stages well and quickly, but it was Harry's mum who conducted the interview. She was ready to tear me apart, began to pummel me with questions with complex wording, but I was not in a hurry with the answers. I thought carefully about every word, and the committee kept scribbling something in their notebook. And then Harry's mum asked me one last question. "Why do you think my son is insecure?" I didn't want to answer it in public. I asked her to leave it for a private conversation, but she insisted, saying that she wanted the committee to hear my opinion. I sighed, paused, and continued. "This question cannot be answered definitively, but the very fact that you are asking it of me in the presence of strangers shows you are not sure of yourself. You don't know the feeling, so you haven't been able to teach it to your son. For the same reason, you sent him to study in psychology with a professor, forgetting to ask your son's opinion. Although he is quite used to thinking with your head, usually this type of man has a pretty decent life. He'll marry the girl you choose for him, have as many children as you say, and it doesn't matter if he loves the family or not. You'll make him a lecturer in psychology, but will work on the protocol, drive a minivan, on the weekends to have a barbecue. It's a beautiful life, just not the one he wanted. And when you're gone, he's going to ask, what do we do now? Maybe he'll drink himself to death. Maybe he'll leave his wife, leave his family, or worse, follow you. But he'll never know how he wanted it. He'll only realize that he wanted something different. Only he himself never understood. And you, all his life, will look at him, rejoice, and at the same time scold him for not being independent, while slapping his hands when he chooses coffee instead of water, because it is harmful. And secretly, you will ask all your friends and colleagues, "My son is good, right?" And you will die without knowing the truth, because there is no truth. There is he and you. There are personalities and personal needs. To what extent have you satisfied your desires? On that note, I ended my monologue. There was silence in the audience. From behind came the solitary applause of the professor. I was escorted out, and the judges were left to confer. Harry's mum sat silent. And so I was enrolled. Now I go to the coolest school in psychology, and what can I say? It's cool there. I'm happy. It's what I was aiming for. But do you know what the happiest part is? 6 months later, we found out that Harry became a personal swim coach, and his mum suddenly opened a beauty salon, and they're both happy. I'm so pleased for them, honestly. Now I have to go. If you'll excuse me, I have my first lecture in place of my professor. take care of your mental health. Tell me guys, did you like my story? Write your opinion about it in the comments below the video. Don't forget to like it, share the video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel.